Hey, how's it going? DVG 124, and I'm back doing another album review for the Aquabats versus the Floating Eye of Death, their third studio album, following up their breakthrough album, one of their best albums of all time, The Fury of the Aquabats. This one was released in 1999, and this is one of their best albums, without doubt. I'm just gonna say right now. I was quite surprised by this one, and I've listened to it many times since the last review. The first time I listened to it all the way through, I listened to it three more times that night, all the way through, and this album quite surprised me. I'm excited to get started, get into this record. Starting off this incredible album, we have the opening song, Sequence Erase, and this song is just a great way to start the album. It's different from how they've started their previous two albums, and that's something you're gonna find a lot through this album. Just different styles and a complete unique style to every single track that comes through this album. Sequence Erase, I was quite surprised by it, and I mean, yeah, it was a strong track. I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. Next up, we have Giant Robot Birdhead, and this song, you know, this is one of the storytelling ones of great chorus, great horns, and I mean, this is just an absolute classic. They're still performing this song to this very day, and I mean, I was quite surprised to hear this for the first time. This was quite a very strong track, in my opinion, and also the fans' opinions too. Is this one still being played to this day? And I mean, the storytelling on this one's great. The instruments come together very nicely. I gotta go a 10 out of 10 on this one. Next up, we have Antimatter. And I mean, right now I'm pretty impressed because so far this has been a very strong start to this album, or to this album in any Aquabats album. And Antimatter keeps it going. I'm not a whole lot to say about this one. I'm feeling a 8 out of 10 on this one. So that was Antimatter. Next up, we have Lotto Fever. This one's a storytelling one, talking about like a magic fish that they find that basically grants wishes. And this was recently adapted into an episode of the Aquabats Super Show a couple years ago. And I mean, this is a very strong start to this album. Feeling a 9 out of 10 on this one. We are how much songs are we in? We are like 4 tracks in, and still quite strong, maybe even stronger than Fury of the Aquabats 2 years prior. Next up, we have Lovers of Loving Love, and one thing I gotta say, the guitar on this one is great, the lyrics are great, and this is one of my favorites on this album. I love the energy it brings. I really do like this song. It's one of my favorites. This one I've been listening to a lot since like fully listening to this album for the first time. I gotta give this one a 10 out of 10. To be honest, this one is incredible. But moving on from that one, we are left with Chemical Bomb. And we are, 6 tracks into this album, and this is incredible. Chemical Bomb is one of the best Aquabat songs to ever exist. It's talking about, it's basically the first-person perspective of a citizen pretty much experiencing, in their last moments, experiencing the chaos and the destruction and the death of a nuclear bomb. And this song is, the production is there. It's so unique. Wasn't expecting this when I first heard it, especially with this album. This is the strongest start to any Aquabats album I've ever heard. And I've listened to all of them at this point because I've been listening over the past week since the last review to every album. And this is the strongest start I've ever seen, I've ever heard for any album of the Aquabats. If I could, I would rank this higher than a 10 out of 10, but you can't. So this is a strong 10 out of 10. Next up, we have The Man with Gluey Hands, and this song, again, very unique, very different from all the others. and it really this this whole album's quite surprising. This dips off a little bit from Chemical Bomb. I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10. Next up, we have Monster's Wedding. I'm not a big fan of this one. The song isn't bad by any means. I'm not a fan of it. Um, song dips off a little bit again, so it's kind of dipping down a little bit, which was expected, and so surprising that we like made it this far into the album with that much insanely great tracks. Now it's dipping off. It's whatever. Feeling a 7 out of 10 on this one. Next up, we have the Ballad of Mr. Bonkers, and the this track really brings the album back, really elevates it again to another level that I thought we kind of lost. This song, very good. Production is great. The mixing is great. The instruments are coming together really nicely. MC Backcommander's voice is there. Gotta go 9 out of 10 on this one. Next up, we have Canis Lupus. This is a storytelling one, kind of about a dog. Not a big fan of this one. It kind of dips down a few levels below the Ballad of Mr. Bonkers. Not a big fan of this one. I'd probably skip it now if I'm listening to the album on shuffle or whatever. Not a bad track by any means. It's just, it's trying to tell a story that doesn't make any sense and doesn't really go anywhere in the long run. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 out of 10 on this one. And then following that, we have the worst track on this album, Tiny Pants. This song is horrible. The chorus is horrible. This is the only track so far out of 3 albums that I've given a 0 out of 10. I've never given a 1 or 2. I might have given a 3 at one point, or 4. But this is one of the few zeros you'll ever see on an Aquabats album. It's not the only one, because I can think of at least one more that is coming up in future albums that I'm going to give a 0 as well. But this one, it wasn't a pleasant thing to hear. I heard it maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 even, while reviewing this album, and it's not a good song. I'm giving it a 0 out of 10. Not good. Next up, we have the thing on the bass amp. It's not bad. It's not bad, but it's not good either. It's quite mid, 5 out of 10. But then that leaves us with the 2 last tracks on the album, which are phenomenal. Phenomenal. This is one of my favorites on the album. Next up, Amino Man. Amino Man is so catchy. Such a catchy song. Great quality, great production. This song is so fun. Gotta go 9 out of 10 on this one. Following that, we are at the last track. And before we really talk about this one, I was gotta say, this album has been incredible. One of their best. Surprisingly good. Very surprising. It was surprisingly consistent while also keeping it super unique. Hello Goodnight is the final track on this album, a very different one. It's not one I'd go back to re-listen to all the time. It's very mellow, very calm. The MC Backcommander's vocals are they're pretty good, and I'm feeling a 9 out of 10 on this one. Maybe a light 10, depending on how this ages on me in the future. But yeah, so we just went through all the entire album, ranking every single track, and now my least favorite track, that'd be Tiny Pants. I gave that a 0 out of 10. It's a horrible track. Now for my favorite tracks, that's I gotta go with Giant Robot Birdhead, Lovers of Loving Love, Chemical Bomb, Amino Man, The Ballad of Mr. Bonkers. Those are some of the best Aquabat songs I've ever even heard. And a lot of those songs I had just listened to recently, maybe a week or 2 ago, in preparation for the review. So this album, before we get to the actual album review for the thing, I was quite surprised. This is an album that really reminds you why you fall in love with music. This surprised me, because this had always flown under my radar. I always knew Chemical Bomb was good, Hello Goodnight was fine, but it's so consistent. Each song was so diverse and so different. something that the other albums have failed to do. Gotta go with a decent 9 on this one. Decent 9 out of 10.